Hey, what is going on, guys? My name is Distortions, and today we're going to be talking about D.Va. Where she fits into the meta, how you should play her, and what you can keep in mind when picking that hero. So let's get started. So the biggest mistake I see people making when they choose D.Va is they try to face tank with her, like you could in Season 2 and Season 3. Though D.Va still is really strong and has armor to protect her in close quarters engagements, she's not really the face tank type anymore. So let's go over some aspects of D.Va's kit and see what kind of tank she actually is. So old school D.Va had 400 armor and 200 health, making her an absolute monster if you were able to get into their team, soaking up a ton of damage and getting away unscathed to be healed up before you even knew it. So for starters, let's go over how armor works and why it's a big deal that Blizzard switched around her health and armor. So pre-patch D.Va had 400 armor and 200 health, with 150 base HP when out of mech. So armor works like this. For every 10 HP of damage dealt, armor takes off 5 HP of that damage. For every shot that does less than 10 HP worth of damage, that's halved. This is what made D.Va so effective against heroes like Tracer and Reaper. Their bullets were only a certain amount of damage, and D.Va was able to soak up nearly half of it. So because that's no longer the situation when you get involved in a whole enemy team, where does she stand? How are you supposed to play her effectively? Well, you have to be a little bit more conservative, but you can still be a huge damage dealer, but D.Va's main part in the team is now as a damage denier. Which brings me to my first tip when playing D.Va. Use Defense Matrix effectively. Let's go over how Defense Matrix works. So for 4 seconds, as long as it's full and the button is held down, D.Va can quote-unquote eat damage directly dealt. There's a 15-meter range on this, and it goes in a cylinder in front of her. As long as the enemy is in front of D.Va and she is Defense Matrixing, the damage will be eaten by her Defense Matrix. There's no damage cap on this, which basically means that you can eat an infinite amount of damage for 4 seconds. Right now, this is D.Va's most valuable asset in her kit. She can deny damage from huge damage dealers like Soldier, McCree, Reaper, and Pharah. She can even eat ultimates, and that's frustrating, trust me. But don't use Defense Matrix foolishly. Defense Matrix comes with a huge responsibility to your team. Since it's able to eat so many ults and deny so much damage, it's imperative that you save it for times when you absolutely need it. Nothing feels worse than picking D.Va, knowing you could have eaten a Death Blossom or Missile Barrage to save your team, and losing your mech. The blame is on you, your teammates are probably going to flame you, and some might even tilt or throw the game. So make sure that you're using Defense Matrix effectively. If you do, you can be a real pain for the enemy team to deal with. You just act like a nuisance and get up in their face with Defense Matrix, basically denying any damage that they want to dish out, and you're golden. This especially applies when battling a Pharah, because you don't actually have to kill her. If you're able to get up in her face and Defense Matrix her rockets, you're allowing your team to win the fight on the ground, rendering Pharah useless, and that's all you want when you play D.Va. You want to deny damage, eat as many ults as you can, and that in turn will keep your team alive for longer. So we talked about her being a damage denier. How is she a damage dealer? Well, while her fusion cannons aren't very powerful from a range, they're devastating if you can get up close, which is where her boosters come in handy. But bear in mind that D.Va can still melee, so if you boost into somebody, make sure you melee them at the same time. The extra damage could help out in a fight more than you think. D.Va can also get environmental kills in places like the well on Ilios, so always be looking for edges of maps and other places where you can boot people off the edge with D.Va's boosters. So let's say you're in a 1v1 fight. We'll say it's with a soldier this time. If Soldier starts shooting at you, Defense Matrix. But don't keep Defense Matrix up when you know he's reloading. Use that opportunity to get at him with your fusion cannons and deal damage. If you can boost at him, that can also knock him off guard and give you an advantage in the footsie battle. This is known as feathering the trigger on Defense Matrix, where you put it up when somebody's trying to deal damage to you, then put it down when their weapon's down. This ensures that you're dealing the maximum amount of damage while taking the minimum amount of damage. Which segues me into my next tip: know when to use your boosters to get into a fight versus when to use them to get out of a fight. If you don't have that much defense matrix available to you, it's probably not a good idea to boost into the entire enemy team. they're going to focus you down, and you're not going to have enough damage denial to get out of the fight in time. This is a very bad thing because as D.Va, without your mech, the enemy team is free to ult without consequence. There's no one there to eat it or deny that damage, which means your team could get wiped and it'll be all your fault because you didn't wait for defense matrix in order to engage. If you find yourself in a scenario where you're outnumbered, defense matrix the remaining damage until your boosters come off cooldown and then get away as quickly as possible. If you're lucky, you might just make it back to your healers or to a health pack without losing your mech. So when should you dive into a fight with your boosters? Well, if you find yourself in a one-on-one situation, or that you could be in a one-on-one situation with a squishy like maybe a soldier or a McCree, then you should dive into the fight. You have defense matrix available to you if things go wrong, and you can always boost out and go get a health pack if needed. But up close, your fusion cannons can do a ton of damage. So 9 times out of 10, you out-damage your damage taken, and you win the fight. Practice the timing of feathering the trigger on defense matrix. That way, every time you get into a 1v1 battle, you can ensure that you're not taking too much damage because your defense matrix is down. It does have a 1 second cooldown after you put it down, so make sure that you practice the timing against people like Soldier and McCree, who are able to take you out of mech very quickly if their damage isn't negated. On the off chance that you do get taken out of your mech, focus on getting it back as quickly as possible. D.Va's light gun can deal damage, but it's a projectile weapon, can be difficult to aim at times, and you only have 150 health. So it's really easy to get taken out because you don't have blinks to get away like Tracer does. Call mech ult charges very quickly, and if you're able to put a couple headshots on a squishy or just focus a tank down with your team, you'll get it back in no time. So when you're out of mech, make sure you're dealing as much damage as possible, but keep an eye on your health. You don't want to get taken out and have to fly back to the fight. And the last part of her kit I want to talk about is possibly the most impactful depending on how you use it. Self-destruct. You can ask any D.Va player. They don't get team kills just by throwing their mech forward and hoping it sticks. There's careful planning and other factors that go into placing and timing a self-destruct. There are definitely places you don't want to self-destruct, and there are places that you definitely do want to self-destruct. Bear in mind all of the things that counter self-destruct. Things like Zarya's barrier and Reinhardt's shield can definitely put a damper on your plans. Make sure you're communicating with your team every time you have ult. This ensures that you can focus down priority targets and make sure that your self-destruct kills as many people as possible. Baiting out support ults can definitely further this. Things like Lucio's sound barrier and Zenyatta's transcendence can make sure that your self-destruct doesn't kill anybody. You also want to bear in mind where you are when you try to self-destruct. For example, if you find yourself in front of the entire enemy team and you just send your mech out, they're going to know to go behind cover because they saw the self-destruct coming. Instead of using it in the front of the enemy team, try to get behind them and catch them off guard, or try to send it over the top of the wall so that it explodes on top of their team and they don't have time to react. Just remember, the key to self-destruct is the element of surprise. So practice all these techniques and you can be saying D.Va 1, bad guys 0 in no time. That was corny, I'm sorry. I'll go sit in the corner now. But anyway guys, that brings me to the end of this video. Let me know what you think. Do you think I got it? What did I miss? I really hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, feel free to give it a like, comment, thumbs up, share it with your friends, all that good stuff. Subscribe for more guides like this. As always guys, I have been Distortions, and until next time, I will catch you on the payload.